Hello and welcome to our daily devotion where we share this one thing from our revised common lectionary for Wednesday, July the 29th. My name is Pam Maston. I'm one of the associate pastors here at First Presbyterian Church of Fort Lauderdale. And thank you so much for joining me today. Well, I'm just going to say it up front. Waiting is hard. And why do we have to wait anyway? We've all been in the waiting room, and it's really hard, and we don't necessarily like it. Well, before all the action happened in the book of Acts, the disciples had to wait. Before the outpouring of the Spirit on Pentecost, before the church was birthed, before Peter got to preach his first sermon, and even before the believers spread the good news to the ends of the earth, the disciples had to wait. In the first chapter of Acts, Luke reported how Jesus told the apostles to expect the Spirit to empower them for a worldwide ministry, and how the apostles prepared themselves for this outpouring of the Spirit. But their first task was to wait. Jesus told the disciples to wait in Jerusalem for the coming of the Holy Spirit. That's how the gospel would be spread to the people of all nations, beyond Jerusalem, to Judea and Samaria. But why did they have to wait? And why do we have to wait? We like to talk about the part where the gospel is to be shared to the ends of the earth. Honestly, that's more comfortable and more understandable. But friends, even the disciples had to wait before they acted. And I wonder, what do we learn in the waiting room? Sometimes we learn something really important we would otherwise miss. And one thing I noticed as a hospital chaplain, being in many waiting rooms in the hospital, is that there were a lot of prayers in the waiting room. And I have a feeling that without the waiting rooms, we would have a tendency to skip over the prayers and go right into our let's get it done mode. You know what I mean. Doctor, what is the plan? Which is really important. Doctor, what do I need to do right now to get better? Also really important. But in the waiting room and in the waiting, we discover that there is something bigger than us. It's not about me. Friends, God is also in the waiting room. In the first chapter of Acts, we are reminded that God is preparing us. God is showing us the way. God is teaching us something important so that when the time comes, we are ready, we are equipped. And if we listen, we can feel something else. And I think that the something else can feel like grace. The feeling that we are not alone. Well, let's not kid ourselves. Waiting is hard. I said that up front. In the book of Acts, in the waiting period before Pentecost, Peter and the disciples had to wrestle with the betrayal of Judas. They most likely felt sorrow, grief, feelings of doubt even. So waiting for the disciples was probably not comfortable or peaceful. Friends, how are we doing with waiting today? In the midst of our worldwide pandemic and waiting for equality for all people. How are you doing as we watch the evening news? Waiting to hear about the number of COVID cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. Are you feeling peaceful? As for me, it's really not that peaceful, as we wonder if every cough or runny nose is the beginning of a scary illness. People are losing jobs. Business owners are struggling. First responders are exhausted and they worry about their own health. Many of our brothers and sisters live in fear due to racism and systemic injustice. When we find ourselves in the waiting room, it can be a very scary place. If we look at Jesus' followers and their example in Acts chapter 1, waiting provided them an opportunity to meet God, God's truth, God's grace, and God's love. Friends, sometimes we have to wait. We have to wait for the moment when the paths God set before us are clear. God's paths of peace, healing, compassion, justice, love. God is preparing the path for us. This one thing for today is Jesus' reminder to the disciples and to us. It's right there in verse 4. Wait for the gift my Father promised. Wait for the gift my Father promised. Friends, first we wait, but we are not alone. If you would like someone to pray with you, please do reach out to Nick, Patrick, or me. We would love to spend time with you. We also have a prayer team who meets together on Thursdays at 4 p.m. virtually, and all are welcome. And please do continue to send in your prayer requests. Friends, thank you so much for joining me today. Stay healthy